If you're a lawyer looking to increase your business through online marketing, you've come to the right place. My name is Matt Post.
And I'm Asha Madavi.
And this is the SEM Dynamics Podcast, episode 2. We've taken quite a bit of a break since the first episode, but we're back on track. And today we're going to be talking about taking advantage of new marketing opportunities. So let's begin.
All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is Google My Business listings. It's something that's been around for a very long time, and yet not many attorneys have been taking advantage of it.
But
Matt, what are the
but most attorneys, they have a Google My Business listing, right? Like Google by default, they have the listings. So what do you mean by not taking advantage of a Google My Business listing?
Well, I say they fall into two categories. They either really focus on it and optimize and actually get new business from it, or the second category is they neglect it. They don't really do anything with it, and it just kind of floats out there, but doesn't really provide any value to the law firm.
Okay, so you're talking about not whether you have one or not. It's more about actively maintaining, actively optimizing, keeping it up to date, adding posts, things of that sort.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the reasons is because they don't see value of it. So one of the first things I wanted to bring up is what value do you see from the law firms that do take advantage of it?
What values do I see?
Mm-hmm.
Cases and flatten. I mean, that's what the big KPI out there for every attorney is. How many cases does it bring? From what I see, a lot of attorneys, they get more cases through their Google My Business listing than through organic ranking, and all things being equal, more than paid ads. And even when you're paying to have an ad in the GMB, because you can do that, you can place an ad. I forgot what it's called. What's it called? What's the ad that goes in the Google Maps?
LSA?
No, the other one.
Within the map itself, you mean the Google ads?
Yeah, there's where you have the ad, the call extension or something like that, where it shows up in the.
Yeah, all it is, you link your Google My Business with your Google Ads account, and it'll show your ads within the Google Map placements.
Yeah, so even compared to that, right? Even compared to running ads within the maps, an organic map listing, what I've seen has converted the highest, has gotten attorneys the most clients out of any Google product offering. Maybe the new LSAs, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, in a bit. Maybe those can touch what you can get from a well-optimized GMB. In my experience, I'm sure you've have seen the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that reason I'm bringing it up is because I think more attorneys should take advantage of it. And because they don't, I think it comes down to either A, they don't really know the value in it, or B, they don't know what to do with it or how to optimize it. So do you want to go into a little bit more details on what are some of the easy things they can do?
Yeah, probably. And that is, I think the issue lies in the latter, where because it's somewhat intuitive, right? The listing's up there. It's almost like a Yelp listing. You think that, hey, you have your Yelp listing and people can leave reviews if they want. It's set it and forget it kind of thing. And even with the Yelp listing, I don't think that's true. There's still some optimizations and ways to increase your visibility in Yelp. But with a GMB listing, you can do posting where it's going to show a highlight of whatever the post is about. And usually it's an image or a very, very, very short video with some text and a call to action. And that is included on your listing. So it gives that listing more visibility. And the name of the game is taking up real estate on Google's site. And this takes up more real estate and it's free. All you have to do is continuously maintain this. And it's not even optimizing for it. It's just creating highlights and talking about what you're doing, talking about, tips or tricks, what your product or service offering is, things of that sort. And another easily overlooked optimization is the staying up to date with whatever attributes are current with your law firm right now in the age of COVID, right? They have the option to say that, all the staff wears masks. They appointment only, no walk-ins, or they do walk-ins. A lot of restaurants now, is delivery. It's an option, and it shows, again, takes up real estate, gives you a green check mark. And people, even if they're going to read it or not, they see a green check mark that it's going to be a psychological trigger that it's an additional point or an additional positive item that law firm brings to the table when you're looking at somebody's listing. And do you, with ads, do you run a lot of ads in the GMB? Do you see a lot of return? Because I don't run, I'm not the ads person. I don't run ads, right? Really, you're the person for that. Is that something that you see a lot? Do you see a high ROI usually when targeting GMBs?
I think overall GMBs are amazing when it comes to getting new clients. The issue we run into is we're having a hard time separating whether the leads come from GMB organically or not, unless you have all of the tracking set in place. And if you're using the same phone number and you already have organic ranking, it gets a little muddled whether it came from the ad or organic. But that being said, I think GMBs are an amazing resource for clients, and they are a bit cheaper than other type of ads.
Well, yeah, if we look at having to shared attribution, right? There's some point in GMBs, and same thing is sharing the attribution, saying, hey, we don't know where this call came from. It's not the best scenario, but it's better than not getting the call, in my opinion. And I know some people are going to disagree with me about that. And I know you have to be able to spend the money wisely, but there's a point, especially when you have to use the same phone number as your GMB, and you can't separate that phone number out from an organic listing. From my understanding, at least used to not be able to. Maybe you can now. I don't do the ad, so I think you have to use the same phone number, right?
Yeah, you do. You have to use the same phone number, which is where you run into the issue of not being able to tell whether it came from your paid click or was it from organic.
Yeah, and so it's, again, shared attribution, saying, hey, we got something from GMB. On the organic side, let's continue doing those optimizations. The cost for acquiring a client through organic means is usually substantially less than paid, because paid is highly scalable within a shorter amount of time. It's almost like cases on demand, up to your budget. As long as you have the budget for it, you can scale almost to the sun. There is a limitation where it just gets a point of ridiculous, but and that depends on your market, depends what type of law, if you're showing your ads 80%, 90% of the time, there's not much more you can go, right?
Yeah, it depends on the market and what the search volume is. Of course, that's going to be your limitations. But that being said, if you have the budget, you can do really, really well in getting a lot more cases with paid than organic, because it's much faster and, like you said, literally on demand.
Yeah, and so if you have, in my opinion, if you have crossover between your running ads and you have organic, there's two issues that we run into. One is attribution. Did you pay for that, or is that organic? You can't tell. You really can't tell. The only way to tell is to check the actual search term and see if you show up organically for whatever that term is. And that even becomes more mighty now, because Google doesn't even show you all the search terms that your ads show up with. So it's almost a futile effort to try to differentiate between the two. So you say, okay, we know we got a conversion from Google. You can say that much. Whether you paid for it or you didn't in the maps is an argument for a different day. But you, as a lawyer, if I owned a law firm, I would say I don't really care. I got a client, right? And that's what we have to look at. Okay, you got a client. You and I can have that discussion later on. It's hey, where did this really come from? And we can battle it out later. But for our clients, for the lawyers, they had that end result. And do you see And I see the optimizations for being able to rank higher, getting more reviews, staying on top of getting reviews and getting people to leave reviews and higher value reviews. And by that, like more in-depth reviews, I guess is the better term. Because that could positively affect your ranking. How does that affect, or does it affect the ad portion of GMBs?
I mean, whatever you do organically doesn't quite affect the paid portion of it. The paid just increases visibility for your GMBs.
So if somebody has complete piss poor ranking, right? They're just like, I'm just going to buy it. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Do these optimizations help those people? Do creating posts, does that increase your visibility on a paid position in maps?
Well, I mean, I don't think it does. I think it will help you with the conversion. If you have more reviews, for example, like that, they will see how many stars you have versus someone else. And all paid does, it just increases your visibility. It brings up your listing to the top. So people are searching, so people actually get to see it. Now, the optimizations help with the click-through rate. So how much people are likely to click on your ad or your GMB than someone else's. But that's all it does.
Okay, so I mean, that's somewhat similar to the organic, right? Organic, you're talking about taking greater visibility and taking up more real estate. And just so whatever that listing would show organically just ends up showing and saying that's paid. It almost forces it to the top, right? You're forcing a number one position.
Exactly.
Okay. And let's segue over to LSAs, because I know that, I mean, you can see the star rating. First, explain LSA. I know that's a new thing. It's been around for I don't know how many. It's been around for a while in other services, but for attorneys, it's relatively new. Speaking like, was it a few months, something like that?
I mean, it's been out in some markets longer. They've been slowly rolling it out. But LSA, I think, is really exciting new feature that Google has to offer now. Okay. Now, there's some really great things about it, and then there's always a downside.
Well, so I'm going to interrupt because what are the LSAs? Like we talk LSAs, but let's explain what those are. What do they look like? How does somebody find an LSA and do that? How do they see if it's available in their market?
Yeah. So LSAs are basically going to a new type of an ad that will show up above the paid Google ads. So when you type in, for example, car accident lawyer, there's going to be kind of an in between with an ad in GMB. So it's going to show attorney name. It shows that there's stars, and there's usually 3 on the desktop, and you'll be able to see what they are. And Matt, if you can pull up an example.
Yeah, let me share my screen. I'm just going to do. And by the way, I have the noisiest keyboard on planet Earth. Everybody can hear me typing, I'm quite certain. All right, so let me share my screen here, wherever that button is. Pretty sure that's it. Okay, share. Here we go. Hopefully, see it? Yes, no?
Yep. There you go. So LSA basically stands for local service ads. So when we see the top 3, we says
that's those here.
That's it.
All right.
So we see 3, we see their stars. Now, this could be pulled from your existing Google My Business account, or some lawyers who don't have a Google My Business account, they get to create a separate listing just for that. And what it does, it shows up above the paid ads. But the way you pay for it is you can either pay for lead, you can pay for a call, or you pay for a form submission. So it's a little bit different than paying per click. It's literally pay per lead type of service.
You said pay per lead, pay per call, pay per form submission. Is it only call and form submission, or is there another lead?
Right now, I've seen them trying to do some messaging, but I think for the most part, it's call and form submission. Most attorneys, however, just doing the call portion of it. I think because it makes it easier to convert those leads.
So you get to decide. You can say, hey, I only want calls.
Yes, you do.
Is it more expensive? Or I would imagine I would just want the call.
And I think that's why most attorneys just do the call.
Okay.
I don't think it makes a difference in the price.
Okay.
It's just you get to pick. I mean, there's some people who just want to submit a form, and I think maybe those are capturing that type of audience better. But as an attorney, calls convert better. So why don't we get more calls inside?
Yeah.
Simple math. So the thing with these type of ads is you have to apply and you have to get screened, what they call, and they do a background check. It's a process. And the
What
process,
kind of background check?
You literally do a background check on the attorneys.
Like a criminal background check and credit background check?
I think it's more criminal than anything else.
Oh, wow.
It's through
Okay.
Pinkerton.
Okay.
They're looking to see if there's like any malpractices done. They make sure you have existing licenses. So they go pretty in depth.
Yeah. You can't be on like a no-fly list.
Probably not. Yeah, I don't know. Look at that, but
Yeah. Okay.
you have to pass a background check. So you are able to run ads without the background check. However, it's not going to say the green little mark that's screened. So to get that mark, you do have to pass a background check.
So you can run ads in the LSA without the background check?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I always see Google screen. Like, I guess everybody does it. That's why. Because I always see Google screened. Like nobody.
If you go back and you actually look at them, not all of them say that.
I'm gonna look. I'm clicking more personal. I'm gonna see who's not screened.
Do it. Yeah.
Okay, everybody on the front pages so far.
Okay. Open more.
I bet you there's gonna be some shady character. I'm not gonna share my screen because I don't want to call anybody out.
I
You know who you are. you are not on the no-fly list.
Well, and also here's the thing. The whole process takes really long time and they run into issues all the time. So they could have just been in the process of getting screened and just haven't gotten their approval yet.
Yeah, and they push all the ones that are not Google screened at the very bottom of the list.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the trick with these ads, if you're doing everything right and it works, you are going to get calls and it's going to be beautiful. You're going to bring new cases. But if you don't pick up your phone right away, if you have missed calls, then your ad's going to be shown less and less, and you're basically not going to get any calls. You're not going to spend any money on those ads, but you're also not going to really get any benefit from it.
Wait, so here's the problem, though. We know, attorneys are busy, right? Especially you're a solo practitioner. It's like you're probably swamped, I don't know, taking care of cases. How many times can you miss a phone call? I would imagine it's going to happen.
And that's why, so you're able to set the hours when your ads are going to show. So you better pick up the phone or have someone in your office pick up the phone. Honestly, I think in those situations, if you can't do it yourself, get a call center. There's no reason why your phone's ringing and you're not answering or someone's not answering the phone in your office. Okay.
Is it like a 3 strikes and you're out, or
we don't have the exact numbers. They won't share with us.
I know you know these secrets. Tell us.
Once we figure out, we'll share. Okay, but in the meantime, all we know is that answering the phone is critical.
Okay.
And I've seen accounts who you run your ads, you start seeing visibility, and then they start dying down. Also, a lot of it will depend on the area, the city you're in, and how competitive it is. Our market in LA is extremely competitive. There's a ton of attorneys everywhere. So a couple missteps will cost you. Other markets that don't have as many lawyers might not be as crucial for you to not miss any calls. But you kind of have to take a look at where you're at, see how many competitors you have, and kind of be the judge. But either way, get a call center if you can't do it yourself. But more importantly, the benefit of this type of campaign is it's very much self-managed. There's very little attorney has to do. You set it up, and it's very much hands-off after that.
So here's a limitation. Well, first, because I came across this, I'm going to share my screen one more time because hopefully personal injury. I have so many screens going in the background right now. I have no idea what screen I'm selecting. So hopefully, sweet. All right. So here's those green check marks. I came across them. I was like, oh wait, there they are. They're right on underneath the LSA on the same search. So you can see these people have the green check marks. They get more visibility, right? And you're like, oh, green check mark, awesome. They must be doing something right. This person, they don't. it kind of bodes more towards these people converting. Also, you can see the difference in the number of reviews and star ratings also affects, it makes these listings shine a lot brighter than these listings. This is what we're talking about when we're saying optimizing your GMB listing. Okay, rant done, stopping sharing screen, coming back. I was looking at the GMB, listening to you, and a limitation that I know with GMB is location, right? We see a lot of law firms create virtual offices and they try to circumvent the rules of Google, because as a lawyer, I mean, really you can practice throughout the entire state and sometimes multiple states, but a GMB listing is limited in the reach based on population density, we'll say, and how close the searcher is to the location. It's one huge ranking factor is proximity, how close the person who's searching, how close they are to the law firm. Is that limitation true with LSAs? How do you circumvent it? If you can't circumvent it, how do you expand? How is this scalable?
Okay, so definitely your location will matter to the proximity of the law firm. That being said, because they're sponsored, you will see some coming up for you that might not be the closest lawyer. However, it does matter. And when you set those up, you do have the option to select the target area. But it's important to mention, just because you say, let's say you select the whole entire state, it doesn't mean it's going to show for every search all the time. It depends on your budget. It's more likely to show up for people who are searching closer to your location. But also there's a lot of different factors that go into play of when it's shown and to whom. But location does matter. The way to kind of go around it is to create more of your locations. So the way you've done it with GMBs, you had to have multiple office locations in multiple cities. It's still the same. If the more locations you have, the more likely you're going to have more visibility. But you're going to have separate budgets for all those locations too.
But is it terms of service violation? Like GMB, it's a terms of service violation to have virtual offices. Is it a terms of service violation for LSAs?
So with LSAs, you do have the option to say that you service the area instead of saying this is a physical location.
Okay. So they allow for the utilization of virtual office. Do you even need a virtual office, or you can just say, I service this area, I want a separate listing?
You do need to have an office location. So you have to have an actual location. You can't just make things up. You do need to have a location. But
you can't use like the Krispy Kreme address down the street or like 7-Eleven. Will any address do, or do you actually have to be like you have to receive a postcard? GMB, you get a vote. You verify that address.
There's no postcard. There's no verification. They do ask that this is your location, but you do have the option. If it's let's say a virtual office, you do have the option to say that you service a specific area, so that location doesn't show up, so people don't like try to walk up to you, and if your attorney is not there.
So you can virtually work at every Starbucks within the state, technically. I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there. If this gets you in trouble and your attorney because you chose every Starbucks, don't blame me. I'm just looking out for people, that's all. But it would, I mean, theoretically, you could do something like that. Whether you should or not is a different story.
Yeah. And also think back, I don't know how many years ago, but like back in the day, all the attorneys had these like multiple GMBs with all the satellite offices, and they were doing really well for a very long time until it all got removed.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is going to be the same situation with LSA, maybe just giving you more flexibility in the beginning while they're launching the program, and we'll see what happens after.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean about back in the day, because like literally I can look at the list of GMBs and I would imagine that 7 out of 10 are virtual offices right now.
Yeah, but I think now the whole process of a little bit more difficult to get those approved.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Back in the day, you could just create it and go, and it didn't really matter. Now you have to prove that you're actually located there.
Yeah, they are somewhat quicker to suspend listings. And the downside is legitimate listings get suspended and they take a while to come back. And GMBs are a mess, but I'm not saying don't optimize. If you have a legitimate office, don't worry about it. Still optimize, get the clients, especially organic. I mean, good God, man. organic's free, especially if you're doing it yourself. Like cost per case, Los Angeles, personal injury. I mean, you can be looking at, $100, $200 average cost per case for a well-optimized GMB, where your cost per case is $3,000, $3,000 to $5,000 easy. Greater Los Angeles area for personal injury, right? I mean, something like that.
I mean, it really depends on a lot of factors. So I'd rather not go into specific cost per case.
I don't want no, don't give client specific. I know you can't talk about that, but in a general rule, that would be the expectation for somebody non-LSA paying for Google ads, personal injury, greater Los Angeles area, around about doing good number would be in that range. It's a pretty good range, I think. Yeah, I'm not saying that any client or anybody that we know has a specific CPA, but the expectation, I guess my point is the expectation would be like 20 to 30 fold from an organic CPA. Once you're optimized, once you have those listings, the downside, and I always put that caveat in there, because the downside is if you're paying for an SEO, if you're paying for the ranking for somebody to go in and do all these optimizations for you, there is that initial cost of getting going until you get the ranking. And that can take some time. I mean, depending on what's wrong with the site. And I say wrong because, sometimes there legitimately are things technically wrong with the website, or building out a brand new site. You can be looking at a few months to a year plus. And that's just the way it goes. You can get a lot of listings organically. Just difficult to get them into the front page. And we can see people like, oh, you got all these listings, blah, 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 but it's like they're not on the front page, they're not bringing cases. So it doesn't do much good to get to where you're getting a lot of cases organically. It can take a while. So there is that cost. But once that ball is rolling, your case cost goes down substantially, in my opinion, comparatively to ads, because I'm biased.
Well, I mean, for ads, you always have to pay for it. Once you get the organic ranking, you're not paying and you're getting all the benefits. So it definitely makes sense. But I think that's when GMBs is a nice cheat to the organic rankings, because it's a little bit easier to get that going than organic, like the OG organic, where we usually talk about actual listings. Yeah.
And paid ads, even with the paid ads, you can hyper target to like the keyword, hey, I want the listing on this keyword. We don't have the organic yet. Let's go and just buy it. Sweet. You have the budget, go buy it, done. Your ads are launched, the same day, next day, whatever. They have to get approved. And that's it. LSA, you don't have that option really. You just say, I want to be in this category, right?
Yeah, so LSA already has a pre-made categories for you. So go on their site, take a look at what the categories are there. So what you would do is you choose a category, and you're not really as flexible with Google Ads or organic. You know exactly what you're trying to show up for. With LSA, it's more broad. It'll have a general categories. You can't control the keywords, or you can't control any search terms. But the cost is so much cheaper. So yeah, you're going to get calls that might not be relevant to you, but you're still going to get the ones that are, and at much lower cost. And that's the benefit.
Yeah, that makes sense. With budget, and I know it goes region to region, somebody in who knows where, middle of the desert is, their budgets can be different than somebody who's, in Miami, Florida. But can somebody with a low budget, and I'm just going to put it out there, for $3,000 a month in Southern California, in New York, in major metropolitan areas, is that at least an entry point into LSA? What in a busy market is what you would suggest as a minimum entry point in LSAs? And I know with paid ads, it can be 10, 20,000 is really what you have to bring to the table when you're talking about these very competitive markets.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about LSA ads. You're not paying per clicks, because when you have a competitive area in Google Ads, you can have a small budget, you waste a couple clicks, and you're depleted and you got nothing for it. With this, you're actually getting leads instead of clicks. So it kind of gives you more of an advantage. You can enter the much lower budget than you would with paid ads, because there's no risk of just like wasting it on clicks. You are getting leads for it. You're hoping you're going to get a quality leads. And that's kind of when it becomes a little bit more tricky. But that being said, when you set up your account, you can say, I want a cost per lead at specific cost, or you have a weekly budget. But no matter what it is, you'll know that you're paying per leads. And I would start with something a little bit smaller, see the quality of leads you're getting, and then kind of go from there and decide what your budget is going to be. You do have control. You can change it. Let's say you do run it for 2 weeks, kind of see where you are. You want to increase, decrease budget, you can go in and make those changes. Another thing I think is really important is when you choose the categories, what you run for, do not go for like every category that you could possibly do. Be selective. And I think that's when you have to be smart about it. Do not, like, if you have specific type of cases that you know bring you the greater ROI, go for those. Don't just do everything, because if you're going to get a ton of leads and they may not be as valuable to you, why even spend your budget on those when you can focus on the ones that are actually more profitable, and at least get those going and then expand slowly.
What would stop, or I would imagine there's no leads at the $5 lead bid, right? In major, and I'm talking again, major metropolitan areas. So there is a floor, an entry point, I would think. How do you know what that is? How do you know that you have, as a brand new lawyer, and you're hungry to get some clients coming in, you're sold, say, hey, I want to get some LSAs going. Mm-hmm. How do you know if you can afford it?
So when you set it up, it will actually, based on your category, it will recommend you what you should be starting with. And it looks at your category, it looks at your location. So that will give you a starting point. I can't give you an answer, one that fits all. Like, you have to create an account and see what Google will tell you based on your specific situation.
Okay. So takeaways for today: get a GMB. And GMB is Google My Business. I don't even know if we said that at the beginning, but get a Google My Business listing, optimize it, actually get in there and change things around, keep it up to date, update your different service options, make sure you're in the right category. There's a ton of information out there on optimizing GMBs. Do some Googling, check it out, see what's available.
And we do have a cheat sheet posted on our website that maybe we can link of what you can do, like basic steps, explain in a very simple language of how you can at least doing some of the basics to optimize your GMB for your law firm.
That's right. We do have a checklist. So go to our site, scmdynamics.com. You have to go to the menu, go to search engine optimization is the service option. Scroll down to the bottom. There's a resource center. It's going to be in there. I'll put a link to it in the description of this video for those who are watching on YouTube or wherever. So yeah, hit up those optimizations. It's just going to give you free clients later on down the line. And if you're paying for somebody, whatever, you're going to get them for super cheap. Get going on the LSAs. There's a lot of people going to them. At least get the ball rolling so you know what your budget should be or where you're at. And I think we're pretty much out of time today. Is there anything else we want to add?
I think that's good. So get those maps rolling for you guys.
Yep. Take it easy. Till next time. Talk to y'all later.
Bye.